John, it's great to be here in Madrid with you at FYUZ. This is really kind of emerging as the preeminent Open RAN conference, and you have a number of speaking engagements over the course, so maybe you can give us a bit of a preview of what you're going to share with your colleagues.
It's great to see you here, and great to be back in Madrid. It's certainly a lot of discussion around Open RAN and what that means for the industry. You know, we've seen a lot of announcements with Nokia Ericsson in the last week or so about joining the Open RAN club. We can talk a bit about what that means. I think there's still a lot of people questioning Open RAN. To be honest, the questioning should really be stopped, and we're now focused at how do we scale the industry. It's a technology change, a business change in the industry, and I think the next couple of days are going to be very interesting in terms of seeing how people really see it and what's really going on versus some of the articles that we read in some of the press articles that are out there. So
zoom in a little bit on those market dynamics. I think it's fair to say radio historically a scale business, but if we think conceptually about Open RAN, the idea is diversification of suppliers. So what's the balance and what are you seeing?
Yeah, if you go back to the fundamentals of Open RAN, it's all about vendor choice and interoperability of components against defined specifications. And we've seen what I think is over 125 different vendors now in the ecosystem, all having their part to play, and investing R&D dollars to make this happen. I think some of the announcements this week have been very from the likes of Ericsson, for instance. We're an Open RAN, but we'll not necessarily interoperate with everybody. And I think both Nokia, Ericsson, Samsung, both all need their feet holding to the fire in the sense of if they're in the Open RAN community, they should play the Open RAN game and build product to the right interface specs as the operators demand it, and allow interoperability to happen. And as soon as you've got one vendor saying I'm going to be a single Open RAN vendor, then that's not Open RAN. They can creep in there with their own design changes, and suddenly we'll go back to where we were 10 years ago with different specs on the radio front haul interface, and it'll no longer be open again. So it's down to the operators to hold people's feet to the fire.
To follow up on your comment about specifications, maybe give us a little bit of an update on some of the work items you're seeing go through ORAN Alliance and what's standing out to you.
Yeah, so the big debate that's been going on almost for a year now is about the next stage on the front haul spec to handle massive MIMO antennas. And there's some specific edge cases where performance of massive MIMO antennas can be improved by putting the equalization function actually into the radio rather than in the DU. Now, at the end of the day, the whole purpose of Open RAN is against open interfaces and allowing the products to innovate. So, if you've got a better solution, fine, run it through the process. But it doesn't mean to say it's the best solution or it's the only solution, and the interfaces that are there for 7.2 today for simple radios and massive MIMO actually do work fine. And so, you're going to get into this edge case creep, if you like, about, which standard should I apply. The most important thing with all of this is backward compatibility. You can come out there and say, well, I've got a product that meets this new spec, but if you don't have a product that is backward compatible with the existing suppliers, again, the whole industry gets broken apart and it becomes proprietary again. And I think that's part of the game you're seeing with a couple of the vendors out there is to, how can I keep my proprietary piece out there and, hang on to a proprietary marketplace. And as I say, the operators have got to put a stop to it and, make sure this industry now stays open and products are certified before they go into the networks, and they're certified against the interface specs that are out there.
So you used the word innovate, and if I look at the FYUZ agenda, there's a lot of innovation peppered through there. So help me understand, just because something is multi-vendor, just because something is interoperable, that's not necessarily delivering innovation. It's more about how you use that.
Exactly.
So tell me how you're thinking there.
Yeah, and that's a very important point. The open RAN, open interface, you should be literally that, just the interfaces and how two products can plug and play. Right, the innovation then goes into how you build the product, and personally I don't believe anybody should be specifying how you build those products. That comes down to the R&D investment, finding better ways to do things, and eventually those products themselves will come apart, and some of those interfaces inside those products will need to be specified. for some of this, but you know, we've got to avoid this. Well, we've got to specify every nut and bolt and every bit and byte of software such that everybody's just building the same products. Because then you know, we're getting into, well, why should I invest my R&D dollars in there? And because there's going to be no money in it. It's a race to the bottom. You know, at the end of the day, the innovation is where companies will differentiate themselves. And you know, Mavenir's done that over the years in terms of innovation with software and the ability to replace hardware blocks with software, and as the industry's evolved. And you know, we're seeing that now in the RAN, and I think eventually, you know, things like acceleration software, acceleration cards will all disappear and become a piece of software. But you know, when and how, who knows? You know, but that's the nice piece about it is really how do you innovate and make that stuff happen and be different from another supplier, but you can still have a plug and play scenario to make it happen.
And so for our colleagues who couldn't join us here in Madrid, what's the one thought you'd like to leave them with?
No, I think, you know, Open RAN is happening. You know, Open RAN is scaling, you know, albeit slowly. You know, don't rely on what you read in some of these pointed articles. You know, I think there's a lot of work to do on the analyst front in terms of collecting information from 130 suppliers rather than 6 suppliers. You know, the whole ecosystem has changed sort of overnight with these Open RAN deployments that have gone on. So, you know, be careful what you read, put some careful judgment in there, but Open RAN is here to stay.
John, always a pleasure. Thank you for the time.
Likewise.